Hello, my name is Tina, and I am a tutor here at the San Juan College Student Success Center, where success matters. Today we are going to discuss how to write effective paragraphs using the sandwich analogy. Is a hot dog a sandwich? Contrary to popular opinion, it doesn't matter. However, the humble sandwich can be a useful analogy for writing paragraphs. And like a sandwich, hot dog, or other bread-based food, a paragraph should be attractive and tempting on the outside, while containing some enjoyable substance on the inside. The introduction is like the top piece of bread. It is the first thing your audience will see when they read any paragraph within your paper. So it has to be straightforward, direct, appealing, memorable, and quite frankly, perfect. If it isn't just right, people won't be interested in investing their time and energy to learn more. They'll choose pizza instead. The introduction should be 1 to 2 sentences in length. It should be attractive because it is your first impression upon your audience, so it should be memorable and set the tone for the paragraph. Of course, the introduction to every paragraph should also be informative, letting the audience know what the main topic of conversation will be, what they can expect to learn, and why they should care in the first place. Make sure your bread isn't old, moldy, or too crumbly. Here are some examples of introductory sentences that might catch someone's attention. If you are going to discuss real estate, for example, you might begin by saying, "Rent is unfair." If you're talking about education, you might catch someone's interest by saying, "Adults need free preschool." This shocks your audience and makes them think because they are used to hearing that kids need preschool, not adults. But since adults pay for preschool, it isn't the kids that need state-subsidized learning, it is the adults. Likewise, if you are discussing culinary perfectionism and the pros and cons of hot dogs versus sandwiches, you might introduce a paragraph by saying, "A hot dog cannot be a sandwich." The body of the paragraph, like any sandwich, consists of some substance or other, which is good because when we write academically for any subject, we want to be substantive. That is, we want to have solid facts, valid opinions, and an honest discussion that encompasses a comprehensive perspective, even if the paper is an argument. Every paper is different, and every paragraph within is also different. But if you're writing, say, a personal narrative, the PB&J of college writing, then you don't want to get off topic and argue, for example, that hot dogs are an open-faced sandwich at best. Instead, you want to focus on obtaining credible facts, citing authorities, quoting statistics, and paraphrasing the research that you've read in preparation for writing. Opinions, whether yours or someone else's, should look at relevant points and counterpoints, and incorporate a general overview or understanding of the subject. In other words, what you put between the bread really matters. The body is the most important part of the paragraph and the most delicious part of the sandwich, even if it is a hot dog. Now let's look at Jane Schaefer as chef. You can always fall back on the old Jane Schaefer method of writing essays that you may have learned in high school or even earlier to compose any given paragraph. It's a little restrictive at the college level, but you can't go wrong if you do the following. First, write a relevant and memorable introductory sentence. Then state a fact or quote a reliable source. Next, interpret or discuss the fact or quote for 2 to 3 sentences. This is where you prove to yourself and your audience or instructor that you understand the topic because you've done some reading and research beforehand. And finally, conclusions. They are the sturdy yet humble bottom bread that holds the whole thing together. The conclusion should be about 1 to 2 sentences. It should be attractive, memorable, and informative. There's a lot of pressure on the final sentence of any paragraph, but for the final paragraph, this is even more so. First impressions are important, but last impressions can be, well, lasting. If you ask a question, the reader could spend minutes, hours, even days trying to answer your question satisfactorily. But it still has to be informative, on topic, supportive of the overall thesis, and may even serve to introduce the next related topic. Conclusions can be underrated and overlooked by students who are just eager to be done with the assignment so they can get on to the next. But they are worth a little extra time, reflection, and revision to get right. So you might end your paragraph by saying, for example, discrimination keeps rent prices too high. Preschool increased GDP. Or a hot dog is a sandwich after all. These conclusions are broad, memorable, and on topic, so they are likely to make a big impact upon your audience. Every paragraph needs an introduction, a fact, some commentary, and a conclusion. Without these basic elements, your writing lacks structure, flow, purpose, and consistency. Every paragraph is different, but must contain the basic elements. A burrito has a breading, a filling, and so does pizza, so maybe a hot dog is a sandwich. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, subscribe, get notified of upcoming videos, and feel free to leave a comment as well. And remember, you can learn more by going to the San Juan College Tutoring Center at sanjuancollege.edu/tutoring center. Check out our YouTube channel and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/tutoringsjc. Links are provided in the comments.